Hey, I've got your most recent quiz here over the quadratic formula. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the couple of questions that you missed on the quiz and then also go back into the assignment. I think there was one assignment where you might have missed one or two questions. So the quadratic formula, again, is a way that we can solve quadratic equations. We can figure out where does the graph cross the x-axis when the equation doesn't factor, right? Factoring is the easiest way to solve them. The quadratic formula works all the time, but there's a lot to it, right? A lot of pieces. So this first question says, what are the solutions to the quadratic equation? And it is negative 3x squared minus 4x plus 5. We always want to make sure that our equation is solved set equal to 0, so that's true here. So why is that a 2? Oh, because it ends up being a negative, but we're negative. Okay, so in this example, I want to start with the opposite of B. I like students to actually write out what are A, B, and C. And so in this case, A is negative 3, B is negative 4, and C is 5. So plugging in, we're going to take the opposite of B. Well, the opposite of negative 4 is positive 4. Plus or minus the square root, B squared, so that's negative 4 times negative 4, that's 16, minus 4 times A, so 4 times negative 3. I'm going to do some of this out loud, just kind of in my head. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 times 5 is negative 60. And I'm subtracting a negative 60. Maybe I'll actually write this out so you can see kind of what my head is saying. So I do 4 times negative 3, that's negative 12. Negative 12 times 5 is negative 60, but I'm subtracting a negative, which actually means I'm going to be adding a positive. So it becomes 16 plus 60. And then it's all over 2 times A, which is negative 3. So that's negative 6. So this is a part where we're simplifying square roots, right? 16 times plus 60 is 76. And it's all over negative 6. So it looks to me like the difference between the answer you chose and the correct answer is this negative sign that's out in front. And so that comes from this piece in the denominator. Remember that a fraction, I'll use 4/6, like this is the same as this, which is also the same as that. And so they're choosing to take that negative and kind of pull it out in front. So it does look like you simplified it correctly. I'm going to go ahead and do a factor tree on 76, 35, 38, and then 2 and 19. So I do have this pair of 2's that can come out of the square root. So it becomes 4 plus or minus 2 square root 19 all over negative, that's a negative 6. And now we're at a place where we can reduce 2, 4, and 6 are all divisible by 2. That becomes a 1, that becomes a 2, that becomes a 3, and then also they factor or they pull that negative all the way out in front. So that's what you missed there. What are the solutions? Simplest radical form. Is that my bell? No, not my bell. Okay, first thing I need to do is subtract 6 from both sides. I do need to get this equation set equal to 0, x squared minus 10x minus 6. So A is 1, B is negative 10, and C is negative 6. So the opposite of B, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A. So I'm going to do some simplifying. 10 plus or minus the square root, that's going to be 100 minus 24. Oh shoot, C is negative. Negative. Now it's plus 24. And it's going to be all over 2. So this is the square root of 124. Simplifying it, I'm just kind of writing it on top so I'm not having to rewrite the whole thing over and over and over. Now I'm going to do a factor tree on 124. I'm going to come way over here and do that. Let's see, 2 and 62. Yep. And then 62 is 2 and 31. So I have a pair of 2's I can pull out in front. So now it's 10 plus or minus 2 square root 31 all over 2. So I'm going to cancel the 2's with the 10. That's a 5, a 1, and a 1. And then you don't have to write the 1's unless it's out in the very front here in front of the plus or minus. I can just say 5 plus or minus the square root of 31. So it looks like maybe just an error with simplifying. You know what, actually I bet because 100 minus 24 is 76, and 76 was the square root that we had in the last example. I wonder if you also forgot the negative like I had done to start this problem, or if you had, basically what happens is if you had a minus sign right here, then you would have gotten this answer because it would have been this, that 70 square root of 76 that we just did in the last problem. So just pay attention to signs here when you're subtracting, but the number that you're subtracting is negative. Remember that that means you're actually adding. Okay, so let's go into the assignment. I think that one you did fine on. Let's go into this one. Okay, we missed some of these. Determine which functions have 2 real number zeros by calculating the discriminant. So it looks like you did not pick the first one. So let's calculate that discriminant, b squared minus 4ac. So remember what that means is we need this to be greater than 0. When it is 0, we get one answer, and when it's less than 0, we get no real answers. So b is 6. I'm going to do this first one. B is 6 minus 4 times 1 times 8. So that's 36 minus 32, and that's going to give me 4. So that's positive. That one should have worked. And then also this one here, B is negative 12. So we're going to square that, minus 4 times A times C. That's 144. I don't know what that is. 128, 32 times 4. Yeah. So you're still going to get a positive number here. You get 16. So with discriminants, 2 real zeros means the discriminant is going to be positive or greater than 0. Then you didn't check any of the ones where it doesn't work. And I would guess the rest of these are all probably correct because you got an 87. Oh, nope, this one, let's fix this one. What are the zeros of the function expressed in simplest radical form? Okay, so it looks like you're getting things in the right place, but it might be just the reducing or the simplifying it. So again, A is 1, B is 8, and C is 4. So negative B, or the opposite of B, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. So I got to clean up the inside before I do anything first. Plus or minus, that's going to be 64 minus 16. Those are all positive, so we're just subtracting 16, and it's all over 2. 64 minus 10 is 54, minus 6 is 48. So we're going to get a 48 inside. I'm trying to think here of what the error might be that you're making. Plus or minus the square root of 48 all over 2. So you can't reduce or cancel anything like the 8 and the 2 right now until I've simplified the square root to see if there's anything out in front there, because that's the only time that you can simplify in a quadratic formula, like reduce the fraction. Excuse me, both this number and whatever you get out in front when you simplify the radical, both have to be divisible by whatever's down here, or has to be able to reduce with it, or you can't simplify it. A simpler example of what I'm trying to say is if you had something like 2 plus, 2, well, let's not even use plus or minus, 2 plus 4x over 2. Okay, so this 2 does reduce with this 2 and this 4, so I can do it. So now I have to take 48 and do a factor tree. 2 times 24, 2 times 12, 2 times 4, that's a lot of 2's. Nope, 2 times, just kidding, 6. And then 2 times 3. So 2, 4, 8, 16 times 3 is 48. That works. Okay, so I have one pair of 2's and I have another pair of 2's. I have 2 pairs of 2's. So now I'm going this way, ran out of room on my screen. -8 plus or minus. I have 2 pairs of 2's, so I multiply those together. 2 times 2 is 4. And I have a 3 left over. That goes back underneath. And it's all over 2. Now I can reduce. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 4 twice. So now it's -4 plus or minus 2 square root 3, and I don't have to write it over 1. So you're close in these solutions that you chose. You're close. And I don't know, maybe it's the factor tree part, simplifying the square root, or just the reducing part, but hopefully this helped clear that up. I have to hop off. I got a class coming in just a minute. So if you have any other questions, go ahead and let me know. I think you did ask for a reset on the assignment, so I will go ahead and reset that assignment. You do have, obviously, quiz retakes available, so you can redo that quiz if you want, and then just reach out if you need anything else.